going through the Quran, what I found the most compelling evidence was the consistent monotheistic call, right? There's no confusion in the Quran about who God is. There's a verse also in that I remember from the Bible that God is not the author of confusion. It's in the Old Testament. But a Christian can never be spared from confusion when he reads the Bible, especially when he cross-references with theologians. Be them early church fathers in the Christian tradition, be them the more contemporary theologians in the Protestant movement. It's always in the end, you have to take it back to it's a mystery that you cannot understand. Okay? While in Islam, there is the concept of the al-ghaib, which the unseen, right? But subhanAllah, the evidence for God, that God himself, he doesn't need to, you don't need to have an argument for monotheism. It's just so clear in the Quran. And I remember going back to Romania for the first time after converting to Islam, it was probably 2005, and talking to some gypsy kids, right, who never really had formal education or gone to church or anything like that because they're ostracized. They were anyway at that time after, communism. And asking them, I'm like, so how many gods are there, right? And they're like, well, one, hello. They're kind of like, because it's just their fitrah. They're not conditioned. Right? And I'm like, well, who's Jesus? And they're like, well, they know from culture. Well, he's the son of God, right? And I'm like, what do you mean is the son of God? What does that mean? Is he? And they're confused. Like, oh, well, yeah, it's just the son. I'm like, son what? Right? It was like, yeah, the son and the father. So because they're not being taught theology, they're not being conditioned in school or anything like that, right? So going back to your question, the Quran is just so clear in the evidences for monotheism. But not just that, because see, the Quran connects the reader to the universe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you to look at certain signs and evidences that are observable. You know what I mean? That you kind of it's not necessarily about some super scientific thing, even though we do have those, but it's more like anyone can understand them, whether you are educated or uneducated, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just tells humans to look at the clear signs of the sun and the moon and the alteration of the day and the night. And he kind of gets you to a conclusion that there's a system in this world. It's not haphazard, right? And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't really engage too much with non-believers, as in atheists who deny the existence of God, right? God gives them just a few verses in the Quran, okay? Because it's impossible, man, when you just have a look at the organization of the universe, the perfect system. It's impossible. No matter how much atheists want to call it the watchmaker argument and try to, refute it, bottom line is you can explain it, but you cannot refute it. Because indeed, a system that is so organized, to the point you're talking about a degree difference, just a slight shift in the axis of the world would cause annihilation, destruction, right? And it works in such a perfect way, impossible for a person to be like, wait a second, how is that possible without a being to organize like that and to sustain it? You can refute the watchmaker argument as much as you want. Yeah, I can go check out the watch and I can see who's, built it and this. It's not about that. It's about the fact that it's such a complex mechanism, much more complex than my watch, that it works perfectly and in congruence. And statistically even impossible, right? For at least 5 of these elements to come together and work in congruity. How about 5 billion, whatever, that all of them work at the same time. So the Quran, when you read that, and I hope that our viewers give it a try, it will connect those things. You don't have to go to some sort of an argument where it's yeah, and this one said this, it's it just flows. The whole Quran itself is an evidence for God's existence and why you should submit to him, right? And that's why it starts with, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. This is the book, there's no doubt in it. And then it ends with Kul hu Allahu ahad. Say Allah is the one, right? Say it now. Khalas. That's it. It's the end. Say it. Kul hu Allahu ahad. Kul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq. Kul a'udhu bi rabbin nas, right? Say it now. Convinced. It's all connected. And in all of that, all that evidence, there's laws and regulations and prayer and fasting and academics and health and economics and military and everything you can think about that humanity needs in the most poetic and beautiful and most eloquent way you could ever think in even in English, but forget about just the Arabic. I mean, the Arabic is on another level. It's Jannah. But even in English, man, you know, even if you read a good English translation, it's like mind-boggling, you know? 100%.
Yeah. I've always thought, like, if I was going to try to convince someone, you've got Christianity and Islam side by side, and say they just know nothing right now, I just go, logically, would God make the most important part of the religion confusing, right? So we have, what's the most important part of Christianity? The Trinity. What's the most important part of Islam? The oneness of God. Okay. In the Quran, is it up for dispute that there's only one God? No, it's said over and over and over. It's so clear. Now, the Bible, there's what? You would know more about off the top of my head. There's 2 verses that you could kind of insinuate that there's possibly a Trinity.
They're not authentic, and no matter what. For there are 3 that bear witness in heaven, the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, so the blood, the water, and the Spirit. These are all contested by Christian scholars themselves. Easily. Right? That their interpretations.
Why would God do that? It doesn't make any sense.
100%.
So I want to backtrack real quick in case someone doesn't know watchmaker theory. Can you walk us through what that argument is?
So basically, religious people believe in God, whether Christians, Jews, Muslims, they use this theory where it's like, okay, if I find a watch in the desert, right away, if I look at the complexity of the mechanism, I would deduce logically that there is a watchmaker. Therefore, when you analyze the world and all the intricate mechanisms of the world, there definitely has to be a creator, right? That's the argument of the religious people, right? Now, the atheists in general will refuse that or refute that by saying, well, no, this is, fallacy. You can go and check where the watch is being made, and you know who the watchmaker is. And if you open it on the back, it says where it's been done and when and this and that. You cannot do that about the world. That's not the argument. Like, I find atheists are so illogical. You know what I mean? They think they're rational, but they're not. Okay. That's not the argument. The argument is that the mechanism and its complexity, right away, it leads to a person to believe, well, someone put it together. It can't just put itself together. It's like, if you look statistically, I don't have a coin with me, but let's say this is a coin, right? And I flip it. Okay, if I flip it, there's a 50% that is going to be, either, and this is an ace, okay, so let's say heads or tails, right? Let's say if I flip it, 50%. If I flip, 2 of them at the same time, okay, 2 of them now, there is a 25% chance that both of them will end on the tails, okay? If I add another one, and it's going to go lower and lower and lower, you understand? Statistically, that they're all going to fall on the same side. Now, why is that important for statistically? Because let's just take, for example, our eyesight right now that we're using to see each other. The way the cells and the system of the eye is arranged is that these individual cells have to connect and work together in the same way pretty much for this mechanism to actually allow me light to penetrate, to invert the image, for the brain to read it. I mean, that's even more complex, but I'm talking like just the eye, just the basic cell, the cornea, for example. All right. So you're talking about millions of cells, which would mean, let's say in our example, millions of coins all being thrown one time, and they all fall together in the same way as heads. Not one heads, one tails, no, all of them, right? So the question statistically is, what is the statistical possibility of that happening? impossible. It is impossible. And that is just one example. What about both eyes now working together? What about working with the brain? What about the body? What about the organ systems? What about the universe, man? What about the galaxy? What about everything? You know what I mean? It's impossible. You have to be, an idiot to not believe in God.